Welcome to this episode of Ask the Guitar Coach, the only podcast where you get answers to all your guitar-related questions. If you're interested in developing your guitar skills and reaching your music goals, please send me an email at the email address ioannis@ioannis.org. That is ioannis@ioannis.org, so that I can let you know about all the different packages of elite guitar coaching and how you can get private coaching by me. Without further ado, let's go to our question for the day. How can I track my guitar progress? So here is probably one of my favorite questions. I get this a lot, especially from my own students in elite guitar coaching. And basically, I suggest using a log or a diary. Now, long ago, I would use a diary that I would just write on, like pen and paper. But throughout probably the last decade, I use Google Sheets. So it's basically an Excel spreadsheet in the Google ecosystem where I track pretty much everything. So what should we be tracking? Let's focus on the first three things we're going to talk about. Number one, you should be logging your speed development. So how fast you can execute specific techniques. The speed development logging should be for each technique individually. So if you can reach 150 BPMs in alternate picking and then 120 in legato and 90 in sweeping, you should be logging this separately so that you can see your progress over time. Ideally, you should have 2 or 3 exercises per technique so that you can have a well-rounded view of the specific technique. So it's not just one lick that you are continuously measuring. It's 3 at least of those that involve this specific technique. The second thing you should be logging is playing times, meaning how much time you spend practicing the guitar. Personally, I only log, both for me and for my students, the practicing time, not just the general playing. So if I'm just goofing off or just improvising randomly, in most cases I'm not going to make a note and log that as deliberate practice, which is the point of logging these kind of things. But I would log things daily and then see the averages for every 2 weeks, for every month, and then for every quarter. So that I could know, for example, what is my average playing time per quarter. I don't mean the complete playing time, but I would get the total amount of hours and divide it by the number of days, so I know what's my average per day playing time. Now, in my case, after all these years, I am not extremely analytical about it and too disciplined, but for my students, especially the ones who have taken it very seriously and they really want to develop their playing, we're doing this pretty consistently. Number 3, you need to be logging what you've been practicing, and I don't just mean the techniques, things like ear training, theory, fingerboard knowledge, repertoire, licks. All these things, you should be logging them and trying to figure out what you are ignoring and what you're not doing enough of so that you can develop it even further. And by seeing these things, you can really figure out where your weaknesses lie now or in the future. Here's what I mean. If you look for the month, let's say of June, and you look at what you've been practicing, and you can see that you've practiced alternate picking 30 days, but you've only practiced learning new licks for 2 days, it's a very safe bet that somewhere down the line, you will be much better at technically executing alternate picking than having a robust musical vocabulary for your guitar playing. So if I would see that and you were my student, I would immediately point this out and we would switch that out to have for the next month many more days where you would be learning new licks and developing musical ideas. So by following this kind of structure, okay, once again, there's only so much I can illustrate in a short video in this Ask the Guitar Coach series. By following this structure, you can have a dynamic understanding on how you are developing as a guitar player way before any limitations become apparent in your playing, because you can see which direction you are going. So is there any other way to log instead of just logging with a pen and paper or in an Excel sheet? And the answer is yes. In my lead guitar coaching program, we log the progress of the students using also YouTube, meaning whenever the student is playing something, it becomes a video in YouTube, which then he links to the original Google Sheet that we're talking about. This way, we have, instead of just having a random speed there, we have a speed with a link that links to a video. This is one of the hundreds of tricks we've developed over the years to maximize the development of my students. So it is really, really important to keep a log of what you're doing on your guitar playing, especially if you want to keep developing your playing and you don't want to stagnate. Because for most people, it's a very predictable pattern what happens with their guitar playing. The first couple of years, they learn very, very fast. The next couple of years, the actual new learning slows down considerably, but they are still becoming better at what they have already learned. And after the third or fourth year, it just comes to a grinding halt. And they don't learn anything or almost anything new for pretty much the rest of their guitar playing career, unless they change something significantly in what they're doing. And most people don't. So if you don't want to fall into that pattern and you want to keep developing your playing, you need to follow a much more structured approach and part of having a structure like that is keeping a good log of what you're doing and what you're not. So there you have it. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you on the next episode of Ask the Guitar Coach. Until then, keep sending me your questions and I'll make sure I answer them in a future episode. Bye bye.